interesting to underline from the UNEP perspectives, as far as I perceived it. I mean, I'm not part of UNEP, but they really see this project as a kind of pilot project, and they really want to take this to other regions. So I don't know of any concrete plans, but I think maybe there will some future expansions and bring this project so support for transition from PFAS-free foam, from PFAS-based foams to fluorine-free foams to other regions as well. So maybe some hope in that. Okay, so I wanted to take this a little bit more into practice, and we have learned today that there are some challenges. We talked a lot about the legislation, how you're impacted by it. We talked about waste disposal. I talked about the challenges in transitioning, and now I wanted to make it a little bit more practical in what you need to do or what you can do. And I put this. I had a different presentation prepared, but this is too technical. It's not the right presentation for this meeting, and I came up with this presentation I prepared a year ago or 2 years ago. But I think this is what you need. So you now have the challenge to implement these bans, right? These regulations, and to come up with a plan how you're going to do that. And these are some tips that I would like to come up with based on the experience we have. So somehow it all starts with identifying what kind of foam concentrates you have and where it's affected. And I talked about earlier which industries can be affected by that. And but this is really the bottom line: know your foam, and that means by that what it means is you need to know where you have foam, what type of foams you have. In some places, or in most cases, you can't avoid taking samples and analyzing for PFAS. So this is really the first step to understand what you have and how big the challenge will be. So the next step from a perspective of transitioning is also you need to know what your equipment is. I showed that in the previous presentations, showing them that your equipment that you're working with is relevant because that is what you're producing your foam with, and that is affected by the transition. And it's regardless if it's a fixed extinguishing system or if it's fire trucks. So you need to take that into consideration when you're doing the transition. Maybe to repeat that, we had this foam circle, and that means it's more than the foam concentrate. You also need to take into account that you have certain expansion, application time, and application rate, and with your equipment, whatever it is, that needs to be accounted for, and this needs to be in your plan or as part of your plan for a transition. So now we have identified the foams, we have assessed the equipment you're using to produce the foam, and the third one is know your risks, because I also talked about that. You will have different kinds of risks, and the more, let's say, exotic the fuels are, the more challenging the transition can be, because the fuel can actually destroy the foam. So this is also what you need to take into account. Third aspect, know your risks, because they matter and they will impact your transition. And of course, these risks, you take them, or the way you assess them is by these factors: application rate, application time, expansion, foam concentrates, so that you can account for the different aspects. Then one aspect which is kind of obvious, but actually it's a very big topic. Train with foam, but not with PFAS-based foams. And the reason why I'm talking about that, okay, so first you need to train with foam, because the new fluorine-free foams require, for example, different tactic or different equipment. So you need to train with fluorine-free foam. But training actually is one of the biggest sources when it comes to pollution. So, for example, I told you earlier that we had this one incident where we used firefighting foam, but that was actually one of the very rare ones where we used foam. And in that incident, we actually contained all the fire water. But in many other incidents, or not incidents, but in many other cases, we use firefighting foams for training, for exercises. And most pollutions, firefighting foams, are not done because you apply it during an incident, but because the fire service trained with it and thus polluted the soil. So if you manage training and if you work on that, you will prevent a lot of releases, and I would say the majority of the releases. So really focus on training and exercising, and don't do that with PFAS-based foams. And I think that's a very low-hanging fruit, right? You don't even need the big transition plans and the costs and the equipment and everything new. Just focus on training for the beginning, and you will tackle a big portion of that problem. Clean foam concentrates stop the tanks and avoid cross-contamination, and we also talked about that, how you can clean your tanks. It's another source of contamination that you can avoid by that. So in between the transitions, so between emptying the tanks and filling in the new one, the new foam concentrate, the fluorine-free foam concentrate, you need to clean in between. I hope in the future there will be some more guidance and some more solutions on how you actually can clean with that. At the moment it's always a little bit like, okay, what's the best approach, but I think there will be some guidance within this year for cleaning also. And then the last one, and that's quite maybe a little bit tactical question, and how you're approaching this problem, right? So imagine you want to fund or want to support the transition at some time. Not only focus on the transition itself, like procuring the equipment and the new foam concentrate, but also focus on what will happen, or focus even more on what will happen with the foam concentrate. And I'm telling you that as a firefighter, if you tell me some piece of equipment I cannot use, it's not operational anymore, I cannot use it for operation, I won't throw it away. I will use it for training, for exercises. I will use it to make some other tools out of that. So we don't like to throw things away. So if you tell me, and maybe I'm not aware of that, I'm just a shift commander or anything, like I'm a mid-ranking fire officer in the fire service, and you tell me, hey, you can't use that foam, you get some new foam. I say, oh, well, that's great. I'll take the new foam, I put that in the system, and with the old foam, I'm going to train. Because why should I throw that away? I have to train my people with the old foam. And then you actually achieve the opposite of what you're planning for, because what we need to do is we need to prevent the releases to the environment. We do that by training. So really focus on that last aspect, getting all the foam concentrate and dispose of in an environmentally friendly manner, so hydrogen incineration or whatever it will be. But if you don't do that, and I cannot underline the importance of that even more. So think about, maybe you've heard about the halon ban in the early 90s. So we had like fixed extinguishing systems with halon, and that was banned because it depleted the ozone layer. And what happened in the following years was a lot of accidental releases in these systems. They just went up into the air. And that's exactly what you wanted to prevent, because it was just the cheapest way to get rid of it. And it's better not to transition, but to, if you cannot ensure that the old foam concentrate is disposed of in an environmentally friendly manner. So if you ignore that, you will have a lot of cases where the foam will just be used for training. And it's actually, we went to the fire project, we went to Africa in Kenya, and it's quite interesting at the airports in Kenya in 2015, they transitioned away from AFFF to fluorine-free foam voluntarily, just because because one fire officer thought this is a good idea. So it's a perfect example for that. But then we asked, like, okay, what have you done with the old foam concentrate? And at his own airport, he could show, he had a warehouse, and for the last 5 to 10 years, he stored PFAS-based foams waiting for disposal because he didn't have the funds to do so. And then we was, okay, what about all the other airports? Like in Kenya, there are 15 airports, so 14 other airports use fluorine-free foams. What happened to the old foam concentrate? I don't know. He didn't know. That was his answer. So most likely, even though it's a good thing that they're using fluorine-free foam now, they have some accidental releases to the environment. So really focus on the disposal of this foam concentrate. Otherwise, the effect is the opposite of what you'd like to achieve. Okay, I think that was all from this perspective to make it a little bit more practical. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.